Welcome to WebD 300, Week 1, What Makes a User Interface Design Good? Let's get started. For this first video, our objectives are to look at a user interface and describe what that is. We will also look at how a user interface has evolved. And finally, we will look at the characteristics of a good user interface. Firstly, what is a user interface? This is considered a body of software. Software is an application, a website, or a mobile application. User interfaces focus on three major areas. Firstly, how does it look? That is the graphical aspect of the user interface. Secondly, how is it understood? And that is the rationale. How is it interpreted by your audience? Finally, we will look at how it works, which is the collaboration of the user interface. User interfaces have evolved severely over time, and we as the end user have been involved and seen this evolution take place. For example, our first user interfaces were kind of strict and codified. We then morphed into a GUI user interface, which is a graphical user interface. It was a metaphor exploratory. That means, for example, if you saw a trash can on your screen, that was an indication that that was where your junk and your trash would sit on your computer. And finally, we now have the NUI, which is directive or intuitive. So what makes a user interface good? What are some qualities or characteristics of your user interface which makes it a good experience for your end user? Keep in mind that the user interface always has the end user in mind. Is it easy for them to use? Does it meet their requirements? Does it allow them to achieve their outcome? Some of the characteristics are as follows. Firstly, is it clear? If people cannot figure out how your application works or where to go on your website, they can get confused and this can lead to frustration. So the first thing, a good user interface should be clear, easy to navigate, easy to understand. Secondly, it should be concise. With a user interface, we should keep things minimal. If we can do something in one word, describe it in one graphic, we should opt for that rather than providing too much information. In too much information, it can be confusing and then again lead to frustration for the end user. The third thing is familiar. If we can use something that the users have already been accustomed to using, then we should reuse that tool. This will make their journey through the user interface easier and again quicker for them to achieve their outcome. The next thing is it responsive. For example, does the interface respond quickly? Our end users typically desire that our processes will work quickly. So if the user interface is slow to respond, again, it can be frustrating for them as the end user. Some additional qualities and characteristics of a good user interface is consistency. An interface that is consistent means that they are familiar with the buttons, the tabs, the icons, and other interface elements. Therefore, again, it's going to allow them to navigate quicker and easier. If it's something that they are unfamiliar with, it may take them some time to relearn those skills. So again, if we provide consistency, it's just going to be easier for the end user. Next is the graphical appearance attractive. It should be visually appealing to the end user. Is it efficient? The interface should meet the user's expectations and allow them to achieve their desired outcome, but it should allow them to do this with ease and quickly. And finally, it should be a forgiving interface. This means that as the user makes use of the interface, if along the way they make a mistake or maybe they enter information incorrectly, the system should be built in such a way that it can remedy the issue or allow them to retract their mistakes as needed. And those 8 characteristics or qualities show a good sign of a good user interface that will be well received by your end user.